Hey guys, this is Michael, and today I want to talk to you about those things that we lovingly refer to as diets. And I don't mean diet per se as though we're dieting to lose weight. I mean diets, things like the paleo diet, the keto diet, a vegetarian diet, the Mediterranean diet. Suffice it to say, in my career as a human, I've probably tried more diets than you have. I have been a standard American diet eater in the first parts of my life. I've been low fat, low carb, high protein, low carb, high fat. I've been paleo, I've done Atkins, I've done the keto diet, I've eaten the Mediterranean diet. I've gone all over the place trying to search out what I think is the best diet for me. And in that time, there are a few things that I've learned that I think are really important for anybody like you who wants to make a positive change around how they eat. The main thing that I have learned is the standard American diet, the thing that most people eat when they eat in America without thinking about it, have three really important components to them that most diets don't have. And one is that they don't restrict calories. I mean, this is the standard American diet, does not restrict calories. It does not restrict when you eat, and it does not restrict how much you eat. So you have these three different things that are a part of most other diets that the standard American diet does not have. So now whatever diet you choose to follow, whether it's a keto diet or a vegetarian diet or paleo or vegan or even just some form of plant-based with a little bit of something extra, has some variation of one of these things involved. They either restrict how much you eat, what you eat, or when you eat. And usually the when you eat comes in the form of some form of intermittent fasting, which has gained a level of popularity over the last few years. And the truth of the matter is we know very little about what makes a good diet once you've taken out all of the junk that the standard American diet offers you. So you may become a vegetarian, or you may decide to eat paleo, or you may decide you want to try the ketogenic diet. And the really interesting thing about you is that a person like you who makes those kinds of choices usually makes healthier choices than the kind of person who just blindly follows the standard American diet. As a matter of fact, most people, well, I shouldn't say most people, but many people who follow the standard American diet, you could also categorize into groups of people who might not exercise as much. They also might smoke cigarettes. People who tend to pay attention to the diet they eat tend to be healthier, focused people in general. So when you take on a diet like a vegetarian diet or a paleo diet, you're introducing a level of awareness towards what you eat that expands your awareness about how you treat yourself as a health-bearing individual. So you may restrict the things that you eat. So you may no longer eat meat. You may no longer eat carbs. You may, I don't know, for some reason no longer eat fish. But you're paying attention, you're restricting the things, what you eat on a regular basis. You may also decide, I'm going to restrict when I eat. I'm going to have a window of eating during the day that's 8 hours or 12 hours or 4 hours. Or I'm going to eat one day and not the next day. There's a time restriction to when you eat. Or you may be a calorie restricted person. You might be someone who decides, I'm going to eat less food than I did before. All of those things put you in a very special category, a category of person who really pays attention to their health. And the most important thing that you might want to take away from this is that when you start looking at how you should be about the things that you eat, what the right thing to choose for outside of any propaganda that you might hear, outside of any kind of movie that swears you should fast or swears you should be a vegetarian or swears that the ketogenic diet will save your life or swears that human beings are meant to eat paleo. Any one of those pieces of propaganda is irrelevant to you when you want to decide which one of these things you want to choose. Because what you'll actually find when you choose one of these diets is you ratchet up your level of healthiness above what the normal American is doing. The reality is the difference between the outcomes in terms of things like health outcomes, heart disease, diabetes, when it comes to the difference between people who are vegetarians, for example, and people who eat the paleo diet and people who eat the keto diet, what we know is those differences in outcomes are actually very statistically small. What we often find is those outcomes are compared to the standard American diet as a way to argue for implementing them in your life. So you should do keto because keto compared to these people is so much better. And you'll hear the same thing from the vegetarian camp, and you'll hear the same thing from the Mediterranean camp, and you'll hear the same thing from the paleo camp. You don't want to be comparing these diets against the standard American diet, because the standard American diet is a terrible control group for any experiment, because it doesn't really have a lot in common with health. So anybody who is blindly following the standard American diet may be having a degraded health effect simply as a result of that. And changing to any of these other diets is going to restrict what they eat. Many of the things that they start restricting are things like desserts and sugars, things like soda and bread, and all sorts of empty calories. And those usually are a part of almost all of these more health-focused diets. So if you find yourself struggling about, am I doing the right thing? Should I try vegetarianism? Look, if it calls to you, then try it. But make your choices based on what feels right to you, what calls to you, what you think you can live with. Because once you entered this group of people, this healthy group of people who have made positive choices about their nutrition, you enter a more rarefied group of people who are automatically going to start experiencing elevated health outcomes over the standard American citizen. Now, you may find once you start to cut certain things out of your diet that there are outcomes you don't get, and from that point, you might play with, well, is the level of fat in my diet having an effect on my ability to lose weight or my cholesterol or anything like that? Is eating red meat too often having a negative effect on my diet? Is not eating red meat having a negative effect on my diet? Many people do well with or without meat in their diet, and that's really where you start to get into, I need to see what works well for me. But if you're concerned about how well am I doing in terms of which diet I've chosen, remember, you are a special group of people. You have chosen something that takes you above and beyond what you read about in the papers. The heart disease epidemics, the obesity epidemics, everything that you're doing by making a choice like you have in the Whole Life Challenge has started to remove you from those statistics. So I hope that really helps you when it comes to making some choices about where you want to go next with your nutrition, if you want to try something new, and gives you a little bit of freedom in playing with what feels right to you and what gets you the results that you want. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.